Nigeria's first ever president, Nnamdi Ezekwe, once said, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." And it's, of course, very much relevant today and going into the future. However, this particular passport that we're talking about, which is education, has become difficult to obtain for many children, millions of them across the country, as Nigeria's endemic challenge with out-of-school children continues to grow. Now, the United Nations Children Fund has recently said in a report that children in Nigeria are out of one in every three, I beg your pardon, children in Nigeria are out of school, leading to some 10.2 million out of school children at the primary school level and 8.1 million at the junior secondary school level. And about 60% of these numbers are in northern Nigeria. So this morning, we're going to spotlight the issue and look at what is responsible for some of these growing numbers, how the governments are responding to it, what the gaps are, and try to understand how stakeholders across board are trying to mitigate its effect, as well as reverse and course correct this particular situation. Join us in the studio is an educationist, a teacher trainer, author, and project lead for Mobile Library, Dr. Rashida Sadiq Hanif. And of course, we also have join us on the conversation virtually from Bauchi State, Dr. Jamila Dahiru. Dr. Jamila is the State Commissioner for Education in Bauchi State, a state that has hosted a summit regarding this endemic out-of-school children. Doctor, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us on the program. Good morning to both of you, actually.
Good morning.
Right, okay, let's start from Bauchi State, where this summit is shedding light on what has been and still remains an ever-growing challenge, especially in northern Nigeria. We all know how important education is for the growth and development of our communities, our society, and the nation as a whole. Give us an idea of what motivated this summit, and also why this is different from any other event that has been put together to spotlight a challenge. What is different about what is going on in Bauchi over the past couple of days?
Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. It's nice to have you this morning, to have me this morning. Yes, it's not news that Nigeria is actually fighting with the issue of out-of-school children bedeviling our educational sector, and that northern Nigeria have the larger number of that out-of-school children because of many factors. In particular, Bauchi State is being reported to have a very high number of that out-of-school children, and indices that is showcasing more than 1 million out-of-school children in Bauchi State alone. And many factors have been accorded to the issue, particularly in Bauchi State, because when you compare it with its counterparts, you wonder why Bauchi. And because of the concern of these menace of out-of-school children, we are putting hands on deck. It's not Bauchi State government alone, it's the government of northern Nigeria that is trying to work very hard towards reducing the number of out-of-school children, because we want to see the development of our own region. For this, our governor, the visionary, His Excellency Senator Bala Abdulkadir Mohammed, has been on the forefront. Even before this summit, there was an establishment of the Bauchi State Education Committee, which the traditional institution, talking about His Royal Highness the Emir of Bauchi, chairing the committee. And for that, His Excellency actually gave them assurance and a very good backup that he wants them to play their role as traditional institution, because one of the factors that we also identified as the reason behind the increase in number of out-of-school children is the fact that these institutions, who used to be at the forefront in sensitization, in enforcement and all, have left are left behind. And so you have issues around behavioral issues around sending children to school. And since the establishment of that committee for Bauchi State, we have witnessed an increase in enrollment. Just yesterday, UNICEF reported that we have an increase of about 80,000 students just this term. So apart from that, there's also a research that has been asked to be conducted by a committee also on basic education, because we've noticed, just as you mentioned, that the manners of out-of-school children actually affect the children between the ages of 6 or to 10 who are supposed to be in schools, who are supposed to be in either pre-primary or primary level schools. And some of the factors we were told are actually around insecurity. For Bauchi State, the number continued to increase because of our peaceful environment, so to say, because we are bordered with communities or states that are have insecurity, and you have people always trooping into the state. And so the number of out-of-school children continue to increase, also posing threats to our facilities, because as you accommodate more students, you need more spaces, more facilities to be able to accommodate the new admission. So for that, there is also issues around lack of quality, especially the quality of our teachers, the quality of our schools, infrastructures, quality of teaching and learning materials, talk about curriculum, talk about even implementation of policies. There is a need to come and do something very, very, very urgent about the manners of out-of-school children. If you compare what is happening with the number of insecurities, you know that, of course, it's because we are now a little backward in terms of education, and we need to do something. The reason behind the summit that was conducted on the 18th and 19th, just yesterday in Bauchi, was a convergence of experts, researchers, academics.
A woman is the Commissioner of Education in Bauchi State. Something they feel we think would make you more passionate about that particular responsibility. You've identified a number of factors, that has continued to that continued to fuel the increase of out-of-school children, particularly in Bauchi State. You've also talked about how the governor has charged the rural heads, to ensure that they increase sensitization. But all of these things boil down to money, the type that are not available to those kind of institutions, whether you talk about sensitization or improving the learning environment or improving the welfare of families. Because one of the issues we also discovered is that families are pushing these children into economic activities to help support provisions at the home level. What else is the Bauchi State government doing with regards to mandating these parents and not just leaving it out to the traditional leaders to ensure that they go to school and that they are retained in school? Retention in this case would also include provision of food, school feeding programs, and all of that. What exactly is on ground to support some of this drive by the governor?
Okay, thank you very much. It's one of the key areas of discussion as regards the financing of education. And we agreed at the summit that financing education is not only should not be given only the responsibility of the government. And so the parents, everyone, stakeholders should be charged to take responsibility for education. The reason behind the recommendations for policies and enforcement of those policies, for instance, the UBEC policy regards free and compulsory education, basic education for all children should be enforced in Bauchi State, and His Excellency actually acknowledged and promised to ensure that this is being followed in Bauchi State. Again, we have some programs. Yes, there are areas of recommendation for feeding in schools and what you, but this takes a lot of concern for many, as you mentioned. But we do have programs, and because of the recommendations for incentives to be given to children. For instance, the new Agile project, which is encouraging girls for school, is giving incentives to girls to be able to be in school and then to achieve completion rate, because you are given an incentive at a particular level from term. When you have 100% attendance, 70 and above percentage attendance, you have a percentage of money that will be given to you. Plus the concern from even the government itself to give palliatives to schools, to parents, to communities, to ease out the hardship of the economic hardship that we're facing. But we are still working around how we would see that we are also encouraging these children through school feeding. I would say that we have been very consistent with our feeding in boarding schools, and we have been very consistent with our feeding in even Sangaya schools, some of which we have integrated in our state. The government has increased its budget. The budgetary allocation for 2024 is about 16% for education, plus some fundings that are coming through our various grants and through the World Bank projects like the Agile, the BEST project itself. We have also the governor himself declaring state of emergency in Bauchi State, also apportioning a huge amount of money for that emergency. And we believe from that we are going to see how we can allocate, to see how we can give incentives to parents, to students, to encourage them to send their children and encourage the children to remain in school.
Right. Doctor, thank you very much for that analysis. We'll circle back to some of the gaps, especially with regards to government policy implementation and why that is perhaps not enough and presenting a challenge for this further increase in number of out-of-school children. Dr. Rashida, as an industry player, your thoughts on why this challenge looks insurmountable to some extent, because the numbers keep growing year on year, and while there are some security concerns, especially in northern Nigeria, whether it's in the northeast, but generally the north has been lagging behind for decades now, and that presents itself a socio-economic, socio-political challenge. But as someone who understands the industry from the inside, give me your take on why, on paper, we appear to have the solution, whether it's the UBEC Act or the funding, the global partnership on education, BESTA, all of these initiatives that have been put in place, the school feeding program. Why is that not enough to turn the tide or turn the tables regarding this out-of-school children phenomenon?
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to say that Nigeria is very good with papers. We have policies. Right from independence, we've had very good policies on education. Our documents are one of the best in the world. But when it comes to implementation, just like you said, it's about readiness, it's about a mindset. And that's why I was happy to hear that they've decided to start from the grassroots. If we can involve the people that are influential in the lives of those we want to touch, to convince them that they need to be educated. We actually need education for our children to be better, for our communities to be better, for the society as a whole to become better. Then we can see the buy-in. Because it's easy to say, come to school, I'm going to give you free food. But what happens when, as we've heard in some cases, after lunch, the children skip school? Because they're there for the food, they're not there for the education. So it's not all about the money. These are important things because we have those economic aspects. Some of them are hawking because they don't have enough money to feed. So if you give them alternatives in school, they will go to school. But they need to know why school is important. So if the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, the clan heads, whatever we want to call them, can show the importance, then the children themselves and the parents will be willing. And then I'm happy that now we are having willingness also on the part of the government. I mean, from what Bauchi State is doing, it's showing a commitment. Like, people are ready to walk the talk. It's not just about talking, and I'm hoping it's not just about summits, but how do we follow through? How do we make sure that these things are implemented? Who are the supervisors? That's my take on that.
Yeah, just before we segue into another question, we do have an infographic that displays the out-of-school children phenomenon in Nigeria, region by region. So let's just take a quick look at that, because it also captures how critical the situation is. So there you have it across the 6 geopolitical zones. The Northeast, for instance, out of 50 school, school children, this is what it tells you. The number of children that are out of school per region, and the burden, it goes without saying.
Half of the children.
More than half of the burden is entirely in the northern part of the country, and we do know that the north has, the largest population in the country. Let's understand from your perspective, what is the consequence? What is the impact of this? In every 100 children of primary school age, 50 are out of school in the northeast, 40 in the northwest, 21 in the north central. I mean, the southeast is just 9, and part of that is, most recent with the whole IPOP movement, the sit at home that is, stopping children from going to school. 6 in the southwest and 5 in the south. So it's safe to say that it's mainly a northern Nigeria problem.
It is, well, maybe we can say that, but I don't like to use the word safe to say, because even in other areas of the country, you find more and more the children becoming disillusioned about the value of education. Right. So, but for the North, which is the main problem, I think it's something about the way we're brought up and something about the end value of education. Right. In the South, for example, you can know that if you study, you can become somebody. Like you see those being brought home to you, that, oh, if you study hard, if you become a doctor, if you become a whatever, you're going to become rich, you can bring your family out of poverty. Those are the narratives that are being pushed in the homes and in the society. But in the North, there are more narratives around, oh, this is destiny. Some people are destined to be rich and some people are destined to be poor. So we don't need to bother. The rich will pay for us. We can go and beg from them. They will give us. Maybe they're the ones that are destined to be rich.
You think there's a cultural element to the problem?
I do think there's a slightly cultural element. I'm a Muslim and we believe in destiny. So yes, we believe in destiny, but you should also work. There's a saying, a hadith that says, tie your camel and then trust in Allah. You don't just leave your camel to roam and say Allah will take care of it. So yes, go to school, work hard. And then if you don't get a good job, you know that, okay, that is the destiny, but not, oh, I'm going to stay at home, and some people are meant to be in the government jobs and we are just meant to raise families and have our, just subsistence farming to just make sure we stay alive, So there is a bit of that, in my opinion. So there's a lot to be tackled.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around quite a number of things, having been born and brought up in the North myself. Is it in the messaging that we seem to be missing it? Or or in people just giving up, like you said, on the end result of education? Because at the end of the day, it is not just about what kind of job you get with education. Basic literacy and numeracy, would imply that you can take a drug and tell that this drug is expired, or what dose is safe, you know to apply, or even dial an emergency number in the event of a problem. And this alone, in a way, improves your overall well-being, and not necessarily about the endpoint. And so the question for me is, which was what Ahmed said earlier, this problem has been there for ages. Do we seem to be paying proper attention to this problem? Or whenever UNICEF and other relevant agencies roll out these statistics, then it hits a part of our conscience, and we come up with these talk shops and try to make it seem like we're concerned. But in the actual sense, when you look at the statistics, the number of classrooms are not growing. We have made a mess of the school feeding program. We have voted billions of naira from the federal and state governments, and you need to see the quality of food. The poverty index keep getting worse. I mean, only God knows how many people would have been thrown into poverty on account of government policies alone in the last 6 months. So do we seem to understand what we need to do to get out of this quagmire, or we're just paying lip service?
Well, I'm hoping that we're starting to understand, because it's obvious that we are not understanding the fact that we start and then everybody relaxes. So a few years back, personally, I noticed in Abuja here that we had fewer of the children begging on the streets. And we used to see them just on Thursdays and Fridays, and they would come in their uniforms. And I used to be happy that, okay, it's not good that they're out begging, but it shows that, okay, they're being catered for, they're going to school. But recently, Monday, Tuesday, every day you're seeing them, their uniforms are no longer clean, they are now tattered, you know. So what happened? At what point did we stop paying attention? At what point did we stop doing what we're supposed to do? So that is it. We have that, just like we lack a maintenance culture in the country, we lack a follow-up culture. And for every government that comes in, they forget about what the past has done. And even within the governments, by the second year, third year in, either we're thinking of re-election or we're thinking of, oh, it's my time to go, and we're not following up. So we have a lot of work to do, and a lot of times we also have our own personal problems. So people are thinking, as long as my family and I can eat, it's fine. But those children that they cannot feed, that their families cannot feed, are coming back to prey on us. And we have to be ready to face the consequences if we are not ready, to take action. So another thing I did want to pitch in that came to mind was the corruption. So we are still liable. These school feeding programs you are talking about, how come? Why is the quality of food not matching up? And other things that monies are being voted for, but we're not seeing in the physical.
Let's bring back Dr. Jamila Dahiru into the conversation, the Commissioner for Education in Bauchi State. I'd like to get a sense of what the state government has done so far. This is going into the 5th year of an 8-year tenure for the Bala Muhammad administration in the state. In some of the states across the northeast, for instance, in Borno State, that has been largely inundated by the Boko Haram insurgency, which is already specifically targeting Western style of education that we're talking about today. We've seen the government significantly address the shortfall in terms of infrastructure with model schools, with more primary schools and things like that. Even on the security side, as the government tries to address the Boko Haram insurgency. In Adamawa State, for instance, we've seen the formalization of the implementation of free basic education, even though it's not 100% completely free, but to some degree it is free. Give us a picture of what is being done in Bauchi State, because as far as the UBEC Act is concerned, basic education is not only free, but it's compulsory. So over the past 4 years plus, going into the new tenure, give us a picture of how well the administration in the state has implemented that free but compulsory basic education for the children of Bauchi State.
Okay, thank you very much. For Senator Bala Abdul Qadir Muhammad, who is the executive governor of Bauchi State, a lot has been done. When we talk about infrastructure, more than 5,000 classrooms were built during his last tenure, more than 5,000 classrooms, apart from the ones that have been constructed by either Northeast Development Commission or through maybe BES the project, but alone through the UBEC funding, the matching grant, those number of classrooms were built. I like the speaker, Rashida, when she mentioned the issue of corruption, because it's one thing to do, and then it is another thing to do. To eliminate that, His Excellency Senator Bala Abdul Qadir Muhammad has put in place check and balances. Talk about monitoring. A project monitoring unit has been established by himself so that they check the constructions of not only schools, every kind of construction in Bauchi State, because it was later realized that those constructions were either not done appropriately or not done according to the UBEC design, and so on and so forth. So you have dilapidation of schools, increasing dilapidation of schools in the state. Talk about what other things he has done to ensure that we have free education, free basic education in Bauchi State. I would say that Bauchi is one of the states that is actually implementing the UBEC Act, the free education. We don't collect a single naira. In fact, His Excellency Senator Bala Abdul Qadir Muhammad eliminated even cumbersome fees. Talk about PTA. In Bauchi State, it's not allowed for a school to send back students just because they don't pay PTA. In fact, it has been reduced to 100 naira alone, and that's also voluntarily. So if you go around, you ask the principals or the head teachers, and you we've been receiving concerns around, these things are not forthcoming, and that's why you have these children not going to school. It's not true, because these principals, head teachers are submitting their requests because they are asking for those fees so that they maybe cater for other things. But now the ministry is responsible for providing teaching and learning materials. I will also talk about free examination fees in Bauchi State. It has been his culture to pay for all external examinations.
We have an ideal situation in Bauchi. The government is doing everything, ticking all the boxes, but we've seen the figures, right? It is still staggering, disturbingly so. What
it's
is
one thing.
link here?
One thing about the figures, it's actually a question.
I guess you can drag a horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink water. You might be building the classrooms, as you said. It might not be enough. It might be empty at the end of the day. What are you missing out here? Why are the students not going to school then?
Okay, I would say this is why we are x-raying the issue, actually the reason behind the summit. But we have some understanding around the issue. For instance, the figure itself, when other states are counting each and every aspect of learning as their level of enrollment or the level of number of schools, in the northern part of the country, we're missing out a huge contributor of our education. Talk about the private schools that we have. They have a good number of enrollment. We also have non-formal learning centers. I like the second presenter when he speak about the literacy and numeracy just learning. So in Bauchi State, we are integrating all this into our conventional learning. We go into non-formal centers and there are trainings, numeracy, post-numeracy, and numeracy, literacy in these various, and then we integrate them after certifying them into the conventional learning. We also are integrating Islamic and Quranic schools. But like I said, the number of our population keeps on increasing and increasing because of the insecurity. You have an influx of migrants from all the states that is bordered Bauchi that are relatively not peaceful. So I would say that it is because the population increases, but also as a result of the perception as mentioned by Rashida. We have this belief that, I would want to see my child become a governor. So if he cannot become a governor, why the need for study if he can just go and just do millennial jobs? Just yesterday, one of the analysis was done, and we noticed that in some of these states that are actually educational advantaged, you will see good number of higher institutions being established by private individuals. But when you come to the northern part of the country, what you see is good number of petroleum stations, all these things that will give us money, quick money. And you see a lot of our youth, a lot of our boys and going there to just do little job, and then they get paid and live in school. So it is also a perception. I would say the culture, I will agree, especially around areas, the rural, the villages. I also agree we don't have enough facilities. There are no adequate facilities, but a lot of sensitization is taking place, a lot of effort by the government. Insecurity is one major concern, but we are doing what we can. And believe me, the North is not sleeping now. Thank you.
Honorable Commissioner, just before we get back to the studio, you have highlighted a number of times some of the challenges that the state is dealing with, especially because of its relative peace and stability, which has seen the influx of families impacted by insecurities in neighboring states of the Plateau and Gombe in particular, resettling in that community. So my question really is, in all of this summit you have had, and in your conversation with the governor, and even in your capacity as the Commissioner of Education, have you explored the possibility of having a joint development initiative with other states of the Northeast so that whatever solution you are coming in, can be scaled and you have something that sort of addresses the problem from across the region, because this is a regional problem more than it is a Bauchi problem, such that when you come up with solutions, perhaps the other states whose citizens, indigents, seem to be relocating to your side and sort of adding pressure to your facility, would find other ways of supporting whatever you are doing, because to a large extent you are also doing them a favor by trying to absorb all of those numbers that come from the state.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would say this conversation is on the way, but there is also an established agreement between the Northern Nigerian governors. At the last Northern Nigeria's Governors Forum, there is an agreement between all the Northern Nigeria's governors to have an additional ministry or department, whatever you want to call it. They call it a regional integration department. For us, the governor himself have already established, in fact, he also joined that particular section, integration, into one ministry, the Ministry for Higher Education and Regional Integration. And this is to say that whatever is coming from one state should be diagnosed by all the regional governors, and then see the possibility of coming together to tackle the issue in a hall that is together. And I don't know, there is also a fund put aside to ensure that such initiatives cut across all states, so that the effect of not having it in one place does not spill to another state. Very soon we'll be having the investment summit in Bauchi State, and all the governors will be in attendance. At this summit also was the attendance of the the State Minister of Education, who represented the Federal Minister of Education. We also have the attendance of the Nigeria's Governors Forum through their education specialist. These people actually took home the lessons from this summit, and there are also commitments to ensuring implementation of the roadmap that will be developed after the summit, which we've started just yesterday. A committee was established to ensure the roadmap design and implementation of the roadmap. The Federal Ministry of Education assured us of their contribution, even gave their own roadmap, a kind of blueprint that has been developed by the Federal Ministry of Education, so that we see how this synergize together. You have also the Nigeria's Governors Forum taking home also a promise to discuss the issues, the recommendations at the Nigeria's Governors Forum, not only at the Northern Nigeria's Governors Forum. Right. Okay. So this is a convergence, and this is a step forward. With the Ministry of Regional Integration, I think we are heading away towards the establishment of what you just recommended. Okay. But it's also a learning for me, because it is something that we will push to see it's been a reality. Thank you.
I suppose people have reason to be cautiously optimistic about all of these, program policies, action plans, because for years, people's expectations have, been let down, largely because of the poor performance or poor implementation, and much of it has been linked to the lack of political will to address that. But coming back to Dr. Rashida, it's already been established. There's a correlation between this education nightmare that we're facing with out-of-school children and the growing insecurity across the region. Whether it's Boko Haram, whether it's the banditry in Bauchi and Gombe State, where I spent a good number of my adult years there, the Sarasuka, the Kalari phenomenon was also linked to that, because these are boys that left school in secondary school. Some of them didn't finish primary school. They're easily influenced. They're easily cajoled into these nefarious activities. We clearly can see the impact it is having on our society today, and these are because we have not paid attention to the education of these young vulnerable minds. I mean, as evident as the challenges or the impacts are, give me a sense of your expectations from all of the commitments we've seen so far, whether it's through the World Bank, UNICEF, the global partnership on education. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars are being doled out to address these problems. And our politicians are all too happy to partner there to get the funds to build the classrooms that either remain empty or that don't end up, having any sort of utility value at the end of the day. Give me a sense of how realistically we need to go about addressing this issue, especially if there are some examples that we can draw from other countries, how they address this familiar problem.
Right. So this is a tough one. We want to remain optimistic. I want to believe in the future of education in Nigeria, but it's not an easy fix. And there are so many issues that we have raised. I think what I want to just try to say is that we should get more hands on deck if we can. The government should not try to go alone. And I'm happy that they're reaching out to traditional rulers and maybe religious rulers. I think we should lean more into the religious rulers and then into the private sector. And then let's be creative. A lot of these men, boys, they're not patient anymore. That value of delayed gratification, we're no longer so used to it. Even as adults now, you send your email, you get it immediately, not like when you'd wait for a postman to bring a letter. So telling them that they have to go to school for so number of years to even be successful, like even if you're pushing that narrative, and then they think, okay, if I kidnap one person, I can get this amount of money, or if I scam somebody as a Yahoo boy, I can get this amount of money. We have to be able to be more creative about the value of education. And then let's try radio programs, for example, to educate. I know there was a time, it was said if you want to reach out to a Fulani man, just go on the radio, because all of them have their radios with them. So what can we do to educate through such programs? What can we do to use the internet? And now we have devices that are low bandwidth. We have those that are not even, they don't need to be connected to the internet. We just upload whatever we want and we try to give it out to those in the remote areas, because we're talking about sometimes we're building classrooms, but they're empty. Because where are the teachers? How are you convincing good teachers to be in the classroom? What training do your teachers have? How can they manage a classroom of 150 people and still make it interesting? Because even those of us that know the value of education, if it's boring, if it's stressful, you'd rather be somewhere else. Right. Rather than be in the class. So,
and do you think that is also a part of the equation that we need to solve? That we have some teachers that are square pegs in round holes, and that perhaps in itself does not incentivize the learning process for parents and students, and that's why it's easier for some of these students to stay away.
Yes, I think it's a core issue, and I think we should look at it holistically. She mentioned that, and bring them all at the same time. So let's not wait on until the learners are in the schools before we start looking for the teachers that will be able to keep them there. We're talking about some of them coming, and we're talking about completion rates. We're talking about infrastructure, resources. What trainings do the teachers have? Are we still stuck in that model where you come and you cane the child? Why will they stay? When you are giving them information that you learned 60 years ago. Those of them that have access to the internet can find this information on their own. So what are we doing as teachers, as educators, to make them see, to make the learning relevant for them, to make them learn what they can even use tomorrow? So that comes with, okay, how can we introduce entrepreneurship into the schools? We have compulsory trade subjects in senior secondary school, but these are all theories. How can we make them practical? What can we do to let them see, okay, I came to school today, I learned how to bake, tomorrow I can sell some of the things I baked after school. They will come the next day to learn something else, and they will learn economics with it, they will learn literacy, they will learn numeracy, they can calculate their profit and loss, they can see. It's not just all on paper.
And is the ground shifting in terms of how society values education now? Because to your point exactly, I think the Commissioner for Education noted that, and it's something that I've actually seen a lot in Bauchi State, where young people, young adults, teenagers are encouraged to take up crafts and artisanship. They learn a thing or two so that they can become their own individual selves and become independent, economically speaking. And that is further being encouraged now. You did talk about the instant gratification of trying to make it now, especially because of the current economic climate. How do we address that while maintaining the significance of education. While it does not necessarily guarantee wealth, you can still pursue your wealth, but also pursue this academic, career that could add value to your life.
Yes, I think that brings us back to the issue of literacy and numeracy, and the commissioner, honorable commissioner, also mentioned it. Yes, why are we learning? Not everybody can be in higher education. Not everybody should be in higher education. So are we getting functionally literate people? How can we, if people decide that they don't want to go to school, we have basic education up to like nine years.
Grade 9, yeah.
Yeah, grade 9 or GSS 3, something like that. And it should be enough. If the education is good, it should be enough to get you through life, and then you can decide if you want to go further or if you want to go into a trade. So how can we, like Bauchi State is doing, get literacy and numeracy into some of those markets, into some of those trade centers, so that yes, you're learning a trade, you're making money, but you're also learning the basic literacy and numeracy that'll make you function, that'll make you grow your business, that'll make you invest. Because why do people keep kidnapping? Because they get the money, they blow it, they come back again. But if they were educated, I'm not saying kidnapping is good, but just imagine you get a windfall of money, right? A gift of money.
That's right.
If you're educated, you know that, okay, I need to invest it, I need to save some, I need to do this. You're not going to blow everything and then look for someone to gift you another round of money.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay, I'll circle back to the Honorable Commissioner, and I will also be coming back to you with that question. We have looked at quite a number of issues, that continue to exacerbate the current situation. But one of them that we are always shy of discussing, largely because of the social, economic, political, and religious factor, is the growth in population. We somehow never seem to get on the table to have those conversations. We have people who do nothing other than just bring children into this world, and it is clear that they cannot provide for the numbers that they're churning at. But for some reasons, we can't have those conversations because probably we've tagged them as no-go areas. How much, because even for the one who is educated, you're looking at your income, you're looking at the quality of life that you want to give your offsprings, and because of that, you're adopting measures to control the numbers so that you have quality people, as Dr. Rashidat had mentioned. What are we doing, to control or to control the population narrative? Because it is one of the reasons why these numbers keep tripling. We are doing more childbirth than the number of classrooms. We are providing 5,000 classrooms in Bauchi, for instance. I mean, if you equate that with the number of birth, you will just notice that those classrooms are not even enough for the people who were born today. So what do we do? How can we have these conversations, that can control the birth narrative and sort of slow it down to enable infrastructure catch up, and then we can move at a pace where we have quality people around and not just numbers that will become a problem to the society?
Okay, so this is a behavioral issue, actually. It's around the orientation of people, societal orientation, It's how people perceive their life. And I'm glad to say that, yes, we do have a ministry that, and it's a new one, actually. I would like to be given emphasis on what we're doing in Bauchi, because this is where I am and this is what I know better. So it's a new ministry, actually, Ministry for Religious Affairs and Societal Reorientation in Bauchi State. It's a brand new ministry. We used to have it as just Ministry of Religious Affairs. But because I like the mention of the Kalari and the Sarasuka by Yoko Anko, having coming from this part of the country, I would like to say that we have this number in Bauchi State been reduced compared to what it used to be before. If you talk about Sarasuka in Bauchi State before now, it's something else. But now it's actually a little bit reducing. But because of politics, probably we have this young guys coming out and being like boys, politicians, boys, etc. And plus the population that we mentioned, plus the migration that we are witnessing. The population side, in terms of the fertility, because this is your own explanation of the population increase, I would say a huge responsibility of the state to sensitize the general public to understand the gravity of having more and more kids that you cannot cater for. And we're doing that through the Ministry for Societal Reorientation. It is not just enough for you to give birth to a child that you cannot take care of and then you decide to take them to Almajiri school, for instance, because that's what they do in this part of the country, more and more. So talk about policies and enforcing these policies that, if you give birth, you should take care of that. Parental responsibility. Parental responsibility. I think there is a name for that. Is it a policy or an act? Just yesterday, we also take it as part of the checklist. Again, I would say that the Ministry for Health, through the various MDS under it, and then through the various stakeholders in this sector, talk about the traditional institution. We have a coalition of Bauchi State Emirate Council Committee on Health. We have development partners working in that direction. But I would say they are doing very well in the sensitization part of it, but we need to do more, especially utilization of what do you call, is it family planning or contraception and the rest of it. People should know that they need to limit their responsibilities in terms of what they can provide for the country in the future, talking about the children that belongs to them as members of the society in the future. You don't just give birth to a child and you don't want to see them as just irresponsible citizens, maybe not contributing to the society in the future. You want them to be part of the front liners when it comes to contributing to the society. Right. So through societal reorientation, through the also sensitization on spacing or family planning, or whatever we want to call it, I think we can do very well. And we need to do more because we are not doing enough. That number is increasing in population because of many factors. I agree. It's also through this the reproductive nature of our own site that people keep giving birth to children that they cannot take care of. But I think there are other factors, like I mentioned, the influx of people from other places, and a lot more. Doctor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that take, Dr. Rashida. As we're wrapping up the conversation, that is one of the radioactive conversations that, especially in the north, we don't want to have, or we have in a way that suggests that the conversation is not an honest and sincere one. We're not reflective of how counterproductive some of these practices are, especially if you look at the security challenge, the economic challenge. When you talk about poverty, rising poverty in Nigeria, you talk about northern Nigeria. When you talk about rising unemployment, northern Nigeria. Out of school children, northern Nigeria. Life expectancy, low life expectancy, northern Nigeria. And it's not rocket science for you to see that, the cause and the effect are right before our eyes. I mean, this is one of those situations where 50, out of 100 primary school going children are out of school, either begging on the streets or, into early marriages or things like that. So give me a sense of especially how we can unlock the power and the influence of the religious class, for instance, because they are at the heart of the solution. While it's commendable to have the traditional institutions join in, you get a sense that the religious leaders pretty much have the influence to encourage, the standardization of what we're doing as a society, whether it's to push our children to school or to regularize some of the practices that we have in society today. How does government need to go about this? Because it is not just a political conversation, it is about the future of the region and also the future of this great nation.
All right, so they are radioactive topics, and it's one that we all like to be cautious, about, because I'm one of those that believe that human resources are the most powerful thing a nation can have. But when you have unproductive resources, they're worse than not even having them. So where am I going? The religious leaders have a lot of work to do. And the government should find a way to reach out to them and even understand the religion, so that when we are doing our sensitization, either as health officers, as educators, and religious matters arise, we have a better understanding of what the religion actually says, not what some people are pushing forward. So, for example, I love that you have many children that you can take care of, because we know that children are a trust. That is part of what Islam tells us, that children are a trust for you. So if you have 10 and only one of them you are able to take care of, you have misplaced your trust. You didn't keep the trust. You have lost out on a good deal. And we value well-raised children in Islam. We hear things like they'll pray for you when you're gone. But if the 10 children you raised, you have only one praying for you and the other 9 are sniffing glue, are killing people, what is your gain? That's right. So my focus would be more on letting them realize that parental responsibility, and also possibly on health, the maternal health. I mean, we are not allowing these women to regain their full health, or the women are not allowing themselves. I'm not sure where it's going, you know, before they have another child. In the Quran, it's already talked about spacing. It's there. It's talked about breastfeeding for at least 2 years. That helps you. We know it's not 100% as a family planning, you know, but if you try to key into those things, you understand that you don't just churn out children. You need to find a way to take care of them, and their feeding, their clothing, their religious upbringing. So sending them off to Al-Majiri school, you need to still put an eye as the parent. Are they learning what they're supposed to be learning? Not that, oh, I've sent him to Malam. Malam, it's not Malam's job. They're not Malam's children. They remain yours, and on the day of judgment, you remain accountable. Those kind of narratives, I think we should be sharing with the parents in our religious gathering, so that they realize that importance of their own role. Yeah,
I mean, you know, you look at the scale of the problem, it clearly outweighs the scale of the solution. And whatever it is that we're doing, it's only good enough for us to have a conversation about what more we need to do to turn things around. But I guess it's a step in the right direction with summits like this, and action plans and implementation and more conversations going forward. Hopefully we can turn the tide in Nigeria's favor. Dr. Rashida, thank you very much as always for coming on the program. Really appreciate you for stopping by this morning. Thank you for the insight. And Dr. Jamilat Ayru, Commissioner for Education, Bauchi State, thank you very much for joining us. We do hope to check back and hear some more on the progress report, as well as some of the inroads you're making in turning things around. Thank you very much for joining us on Daybreak this morning. I appreciate your insight also.
Thank you.
Right, okay. For now, we take a quick break. When we come back, we take a look at some select national dailies this morning to bring you up to speed with the stories making the headlines. Newspaper review is coming up next.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and it's that segment where we bring you all the stories that made the front pages of select newspapers in Nigeria. And that's a tradition in the studio here. We begin with the Daily Trust. Daily Trust, by the way, it's marking 25 years of robust journalism in Nigeria. The major story here is still staying with the Rivers crisis, Tinubu's intervention breach of constitution. This is coming from senior advocates of Nigeria. They say political solutions can't override law. President's action insults to Rivers people. This is coming from Edwin Clark, who is also a lawyer by training. He calls himself the voice of the Niger Delta. We will sacrifice for peace. This is from Governor Fabura. PDP reject truce.
I saw his comments yesterday at a function. I think it was a convocation or some sort of event like that, and he looks dejected. He looks, I don't know. It wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look.
Yeah, and it's caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. On the one hand, he wants to seem to respect the person of the president and accept whatever is put forward as a truth. But there is also a dilemma that has been created by what has happened. There's a fresh political angle to it. What has happened to the court pronouncements before now that had given credence or legitimacy to the 4 or 5 lawmakers, as they were. What has happened to, or what would happen to the budget that has been passed?
There is no presidential declaration that can override
override the position of the constitution, basically. And I think that's what the SANs are saying. PDP reject truce, insist on fresh polls, and protest in Port Harcourt over truce. And to other stories, 14 years after Akeredolu's call for Yar'Adua's resignation hurts him. What goes around, they say.
Yeah, you know, I don't know whether it's karmic energy. I don't think there's anything celebratory about that because we're talking about another man's health.
That's right.
But it just reminds you to be kind to people with your words, especially when they're going through very difficult times. And I remember while that was a polarizing issue when the late President Yar'Adua was sick, was in Saudi Arabia receiving medical attention. A lot of people would just want Nigeria to move on. You can understand from their perspective that governance doesn't stop because the president is incapacitated. They just wanted to
there are several other lives, if you like, that are endangered.
However, also, the way we had the conversation was toxic in a way because it's almost as if, you know, he doesn't matter, let's just move on, we have a vice president and things like that. So it's very interesting to see that Akeredolu, who was at the heart of that conversation also, is now caught in between this particular situation.
I was listening to one of those skit makers in Nigeria. I will just paraphrase what he said in broken English. He said, "Now another man's sin, now in this sweet to talk about."
Right, exactly.
Whatever that is. To other stories, traditional rulers, pregnant wife, 15 others adopted in Taraba. You'll find the details of that story on page 8. Peace and harmony have returned to the Federal Character Commission.
Has it?
How true is that? Well,
do we have the report of the Gaji committee?
Well, whatever this kind of peace is, you want to find out if you open to page 6. And to other stories, reps probe MDAs over funds to tackle out-of-school children menace. Remember, we have just had a robust conversation on that. After shake-ups, lobby for aviation agencies headship begin. There are over 20 directors, you know, that were let go, and you can imagine what that lobby would look like. And Zenith Bank listed among top 100 global companies for 2023. And finally, the bottom strip here, Naira scarcity, NLC wants FG, says CBN inciting Nigerians.
Let's take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper for today. Here we go. Starting with Rivers. PDP, Clark for Tinubu's peace deal. APC slams opposition. So if you think the drama is over, think again. Domestic borrowing jumps by 134%, rises to 52 trillion naira. It seems like we're going down this rabbit hole again. Page 30 has details of that story. How about this one? Don't depend on Villa for feedback. Fire me, advises Tinubu. I think that's a worthwhile advice.
Big one.
You know, for some reason, I think that the president sometimes doesn't usually get an honest reflection or analysis of how critical or serious some situations are, but he also cannot afford to forgo outside counsel. Cash crunch. NLC warns federal government of mass protest. Again, banks cut withdrawals. CBN fresh disbursement fails to reach banks. Southwest banks source cash from northern branches. Is that even legal?
Well,
are they allowed to do that? You would know more about this one. I suppose there's some strategic reasons why, you know, the funds are disbursed the way they are to control the flow. But if you have banks moving cash depending on demand, I don't know whether they're crossing a line there. But also, Nigerians running out of patience, can't bear current pains. Labour tells Tinubu government as well as the CBN. Sanwo-Olu opens Red Line rail flyover, projects 500,000 passengers daily. Listen, this man is overachieving, if you ask me, with regards to developments in Lagos. He's put his head down and he's been doing a lot of work, and you expect that for a state like Lagos to continue its developmental path. And you've seen some of the pictures there from the commissioning of the Red Line. The Blue Line was done a couple of months ago, I believe.
It's currently running.
Yeah. In other news, protect your database from hackers. Inspector General advises banks. Okay. Driver charged with manslaughter after crash in Lagos. And finally, Makinde fumes over suit against Seun, threatens litigants. So the drama over traditional positions continue. This story you can find on page 7. That's it on the front page of the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, we'll move on now to the Nation newspaper, and the major story there is staying with the situation in Rivers. No price too much to pay for peace in Rivers, says Fabura. PDP clerk rejects peace deal or peace terms, as the case may be. And to other stories, CBN banks bridge loan limit regulation. Recapitalization would aid $1 trillion economy. I think that was Cardoso speaking yesterday at a function in Lagos. Shaibu admits first-year relationship with Obaseki. I think this is public knowledge over his purported ambition.
I think they made up.
Well,
when he apologized.
That is for the public eye, but he's gone on with his ambition, and that has continued to fuel the basis and the foundation for that crisis. EFCC now to beam satellite on councils. I thought they said there are no allocations at that level. Well, somebody is saying there is no dividend at the grassroots. Makinde canvasses peace as shown get staff off office. And federal lawmakers to pass budget December 30. ASU slams vice chancellors. That's it on the front page of the Nation.
Let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper as we wrap things up. Despite 9.56 trillion naira allocation in 5 years, the 774 local government areas in Nigeria are still underdeveloped. No need to wonder why. We all know why. They have for long been emasculated by the state governments or the state governors. Total allocation to local government areas in 5 years. This is the amount. You can see an infographic that breaks down, and you go to some of these local governments, there's nothing to really write home about. It leaves much to be desired. The president there...
The bulk of this fund is actually for salary payments?
Yeah. Much of it is recurrent. Very few in between regarding capital projects or anything like that. You have bandits abduct police officers. Monarch, pregnant woman, 13 others in Taraba. That police officer, by the way, is the orderly in the traditional ruler's home. And we'll wait to hear more on that development, whether there's a rescue mission on the way or not. Telecommunication providers may lose subscribers as NCC orders total barring of unlinked SIMs. Police in Anambra nab couple who bought month-old baby for 30,000 naira. We did tell you that story a little earlier. Falana, Clark, Rivers elders slam Tinubu's unconstitutional peace deal. I mean, it's peace.
But it's unconstitutional.
Why should people be against peace? Anyway, yeah, that's that for the front page of the of the Guardian newspaper. Let's bring in go-to guests always on a beautiful Wednesday morning. This week, you're looking cheerful, Mr. Ben Sherman, former Director News, Voice of Nigeria.
One cannot remain so sad.
Is it the festive season that is, putting that smile on your face?
Now, let me tell you something. Try to capture sadness so that every day will be a festive period.
Really?
And it does not really matter what you're wearing. It does not matter what you're eating. No one goes into your system to see what you're eating.
This is what you say when your children are too old for you to buy them Christmas gifts. So Mr. Ben has no bill.
We understand the basis for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's the recipient at this point.
Yeah. Incidentally, my last child is 26 years.
Right. Oh, no Christmas clothes for him.
So, but you still have the hangers around that you have to take care of. Because you cannot be a happy king within your palace, and every other person around you is so sad.
Right.
Also, if you want peace, take care of the immediate environment.
Okay.
Just like in governance too, all the big people take care of the environment. We have peace.
Yeah,
if you say so, and I hope.
I guess you have a pushback.
I hope the real kings that control the budget are listening to you.
Right.
That's
the people in their palace are not happy.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. Now you see, what is happening is, it enters here, it passes that way. But you know this thing you call capitalism. The moment you have reached there, please gather. It does not matter. Your neighbor, let him relax. Gather and gather. When it comes to jobs, you are putting your children in strategic places, so that to you are investing in generations you don't even know that are to come far ahead. And again, that says a lot about you, your persona.
I think we have basically institutionalized state capture, and that's largely our fault, if you ask me. Most of the nations who have advanced in the world did not do that with docile citizenship. I mean,
there's a lot of inactivity,
passiveness around us. So we just basically take everything. Looking at the papers today, Rivers basically would not go away from the headlines, is it? Now the president has intervened. That intervention has basically unnetted more controversy, as the case may be, with people saying it's not political solution is not what we need here. It's what we need is to activate constitutional provisions for a situation like this. And as Ahmed would say, listening to Fabura, he seemed to be lost at where to stand. On the one hand, he feels he's pursuing peace, but his party people are saying what we need to do the right thing. What are your thoughts around what's going on with Rivers, especially as it concerns the intervention of Mr. President?
Yeah, you see, there's always press review. There's also press review. You bring in a kind of a satire over very serious matters in a review. You have an opposition, APC in Rivers, as it is, bringing peace for a government in power in Rivers. I don't know how that one works. Okay, let's call it government of national unity. After a week, you can see the romance with APC, even as a member of PDP. So, as a governor in court in Rivers State, today he's the governor again in governor in FCT. He's still the governor in Rivers State. The comedy you want to put in there is when you want to painstakingly look at the agreements or sign. Fubara, you have to allow the status quo to remain. Which status quo? Okay. You will not dissolve a council? Yes, sir. Commissioners that have left you, they have to be reinstated. State Assembly guys that left, 27 of them to APC. You say, okay.
They're not coming back to the PDP,
they are not
but
coming
they're also
back.
Staying, right?
Yes, sir. Are you seeing what I'm saying, Fubara? You must not tamper with anything as arranged here. Yes, sir. Sign.
I mean, is he duty bound to accept those conditions?
That is why this is now a review. It's a kind of a satire. With everything, yes, sir. Lie down here, yes, sir. Where is that knife? Yes, sir. Keep it here, yes, sir. In the end, the 27 law, and they are saying anything you have signed, you can't renege. You can't pull out.
I mean, it's not binding,
yes,
isn't it?
Don't go to court. Anything in court, withdraw. Yes, sir, I sign. In the end,
He said
this man will be a governor just on paper. By
he
name.
he said in a speech yesterday, which we were alluding to, and I think you can also see that on the front page of the Punch newspaper, that he's willing to compromise and do whatever is needed for the peace of Rivers State. Do you think that explains why he's apparently willing to give away everything for peace to reign in the state? Or is this perhaps just a lull in the fight?
The time he was hitting his chest and challenging his mentor, his political godfather, he never envisaged this. And look at his outburst that time. CEO, I know many things, so the bubble will burst. You know, with all those outbursts, here you are, you've been deflated. And I think that looking at it constitutionally, where will these lawmakers be They are now with APC? Or would they return to PDP? And when they said the budget you've so presented, those people have to return and you represent. Look at another provision that these lawmakers, since the governor also pulled down the state assembly, that they can sit anywhere. So they can go to Calabari. They can go to just name any.
Is there
whether Moji, they can go to Moji, go sit down there. They can just go to
or here in Abuja.
or here in Abuja, because they said they can sit anywhere.
Okay, beyond Governor
If they
Fabure.
say you can sit anywhere, they can just go to one hotel, call 1, 2, 3 guys and say, we have hereby and now impeached you.
But they don't have the maize with them, do they? But the question is, beyond
The
Governor
maize is
Fabure,
something you can buy. There's no
but does that
single maize.
authenticate it?
You
If we
can
bring the
take-
maize to the studio here, does that make this place the House of Assembly?
That's why people are saying, if you look at it legally, many things are wrong. But we had a situation where a governor, when some people carried the mess away, they said no symbol of authority. Someone rose to a local government and brought one. A mess is a mess. The same color, same spelling, same everything. And since it is the symbol of authority, they use that to deal with some governors in Plateau.
Okay, so quickly before we move on, what is the solution to the problem in Rivers? Is it a constitutional solution or what do you think the solution would be? A constitutional solution or a political solution?
Whichever one you bring, and Wike does not accept.
Why
that
do
is
we
still
make
a
it look
problem.
like Wike is an institution that has to agree with what is constitutional before it is legal?
When he said he was going to destroy all chances in PDP, he did. Anytime Wike kept quiet, his silence was news. It left people guessing. And when he said he was going to deliver Rivers presidential, he did. Gubernatorial for PDP, he did. And so, Wike politically, the definition of a political godfather is what is there.
I mean, he bought all the forms. He technically installed the man, and now he feels that he owns him. Or should I say he owns Rivers State?
There's nothing Fobara will do that will not kind of, from today, going by what he said, he has to kind of take permission and say, yes, sir.
Right.
And look at the way Wike didn't also want Amechi to have any breathing space in Rivers.
Okay.
Now, we expect that, that we should have peace.
Okay, let's make haste with the time. I think we just have a minute or so to spare. The naira scarcity. I mean, it's right on the Sunday Michael's alley. We don't know what's happening. CBN has reassured plenty of times that this is not going to be an issue. But just days before Christmas, we know that Nigerians are not able to enjoy Christmas fully because of the declining purchasing power and the current economic climate. However, the ones who need a little cash to feel some sort of excitement over the past couple of weeks have been struggling to do so. We now understand that even banks are rationing some of the little available cash that they have. What do you make of that, as the NLC's threatening to go on strike or protest, I beg your pardon?
Well, NLC will always want to cash in some bad situations. They should also study some things very well. But for the CBN, I don't think we deserve this kind of treatment. That not just festivities, in ordinary life, that you have money in the bank, you can't access it. You go there, sorry, I can only give you this. It's just like you have food in your house and the house help you brought in to cook for you. You say, oh God, sorry, I've cooked too, but I'm going to just give you 2 spoons. That doesn't add up. What does it say about the economy? And it is only in Nigeria, I don't know. Abdullah, tell me something. How many prices have actually gone up in Nigeria, and you now see them nose diving, dropping, crash landing, rock bottom approach? You don't see it. So why is it that in the midst of every scarcity, okay, We expect that, okay, since there's no money to buy anything, it means the goods are on ground. I mean, so the prices should come down. But the prices are up there. There's no money for you to buy. I mean, what is happening with this economy? I think that the president needs a proper working think tank that will ensure that this economy works. Where you just wake up, you don't just know where to get cash. And if we are going to go cashless, please let us go cashless. Let the shoe shiner, let everybody have this facility to do transactions. Today, try. Yesterday, I tried for how many hours just to send something to someone in the village. It didn't work. Now, as soon as I finish this place, I have to go to somewhere, begin to fill those forms. I fill and go. Whether they will send, at the point they say, figures are just passing, not money. Because at the other end, you go to cash your money in one POS. Sorry, we don't have. And so it is. People will keep on spending the little they have to go check in the bank whether there is cash. I think it shouldn't be an economy of trial by error. It shouldn't be. Economy and the economics is something scientific that we can touch the economy. I mean, I'm not sure we can touch political science, but we can touch the economy. It's tangible, it's physical, you know. But the very essence of governance, Chapter 2 of the general principle, fundamental objectives of government, will give you good life, will protect you, will ensure that the economy, school, education, will give you all of this. With this kind of a thing, and if you look at the main thrust of your discussion today, out of school syndrome. How do you handle situations like that with insecurity here and there? And these people are just going to be willing to be used by some people to cause mayhem in society.
All right.
As much as we love to, go down that rabbit hole, we're going to have to end it here, Mr. Ben. As always, thank you for your sage insight. And we look forward to seeing you after Christmas. I hope Wednesday is okay next week.
Why are you excusing Christmas? It's Mr. Ben.
That is if you won't carry your camera to my village.
Oh, okay.
You come to Bondon and Kaura local government. Right, you come to Chika.
I suppose Mr. Daniel Mercy has to look for a newspaper reviewer next week, Wednesday. Because it looks like we might not see Mr. Ben Sherman next week, who will be enjoying his festive period. But thank you most kindly for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate you for stopping by, and do enjoy the Christmas holiday.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is our show for today. Thank you most kindly. We really do appreciate you for your time and company. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Daybreak returns tomorrow live and exclusive on Trust TV at 8 a.m. Until then, good morning.
All right, our sport program comes up immediately after this. If you're mixed out on any of segments of this show, do well to reach out to our social media handle and catch up on all the interesting conversation and segments that we have had this morning. I am Sunday Michael Hogu. Do have a great day ahead.